All right. Good evening. Good evening, whoever is out there tonight. Doesn't look like anybody's joined just yet, so while we're waiting on people to join and while I'm getting set up here, hopefully, just go through the normal disclaimers, there we go, that I normally go through. If you've never been to one of the live broadcasts, this is just a kind of an Ask Me Anything session. I don't have a topic planned out. I do these pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Time, unless life gets in the way. And unfortunately, I got to apologize to you guys. I was not here last week. Internet went out, got struck by lightning. Just the internet, took out the TV in the bedroom, but not a big loss. It's okay. We're fine. Didn't do any more damage than that, but the lightning took out the internet for a couple of days. So we didn't have internet service until Sunday. So I wasn't able to get a lot of things that I normally would get done. So apologize again for that. Oh, excuse me. I got to look around here and see what I'm clicking on here. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get going this evening. We got a couple of people here. Exotic Keepers here, Christian Acevedo, Jay Likes Jam, I think is what I say that. Ian Ulrich, I think I got that right. Lori Habel, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Good evening to you. Robin Swan, welcome. Let's see, Armed American Patriots here. Rhonda Snare says, hello, was wondering if your internet was going to be fixed. Yes, it is fixed today. It actually got fixed on Sunday. So we were without internet for a couple of days. And I apologize. I only got one video out this week. Just kind of hectic. It was, holiday weekend. No internet until Sunday. We had a wedding to go to. My anniversary was Monday. So all kinds of things piling up there. And I only got one video out. Usually I'm just kind of using those for an excuse because, honestly, I was just kind of lazy probably. But it was busy. So... excuse me. All right, so it's Hey Bale. Hey Bale. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Lori. Sam Brooks is here. Junior Bailey, I guess it is. Oil Patch Central Wyoming, I think that is. Christian Acevedo says, Chris, hatch out some Coturnix quail and got one runt in the hatch. Well, I mean, that's not terrible. Every once in a while you wind up with a runt. It doesn't happen every time you hatch. It doesn't happen every litter of rabbits, but it does happen from time to time. Nothing to worry about. A lot of times they'll catch up to the others. So just no stress. Now, you may want to remove that one from your breeding pool, though. So if it's a meat run, don't worry about it. If you plan on making them future layers, future breeders, you might mark that one somehow so you can keep track of it and not have it be a future breeder, because over time you may get more and more of those runs if you keep that in the breeding pool, so to speak. All right, so where are we at here? Rhonda says, happy anniversary. Well, thank you so much. Joshua De Souza says, how do you cook quail? A lot of times I cook it in an oven. Sometimes I cook it on a barbecue grill. Sometimes, that's probably not what you're asking. There's lots of ways to cook quail. I think it needs to be cooked pretty hot, pretty fast. It cooks very, very fast. So if you're doing it like 450 degrees for probably about 12 minutes, something like that, it does actually cook very, very fast. One of my favorite ways to cook it is to cut the breast meat off the bone. And you get 2 halves of that, of course. And then you can put, like I like to put blue cheese in there, fold it over, wrap a piece of bacon around that, brush it down with some like buffalo sauce, buffalo wing sauce. Really, really good that way. You can do it a number of different ways. Just season it with some like Italian dressing or something like that. Maybe marinate it in there a little while. Cook it in the oven. Again, on the grill, there's lots of different ways that you can cook quail. Hopefully that kind of answers your question, gives you a couple of ideas. All right, Isabel says hello. Hello to you. Isabella Cookies Zeladon. There we go. I think I got that right. Sharon Pace, hello to you. Tyler Hoagie. Yep, everything's going well for the family. Thank you very much for asking. I appreciate it. Oh, it's J.R. Bailey, not Junior. Okay, sorry. Ian says, do you know if there is any quail dealers in the inland Northwest, like around Washington? I don't know specifically of any quail dealers. That sounds kind of, I don't know, almost like it should be illegal, right? I don't know of anybody in the Northwest specifically. I always recommend Kansas City Quail Farms. You might check with them. I'm sure that they do ship to Washington State, but you'd have to check with them to be sure. But that's who I usually recommend. All right, Exotic Keeper says, where are we at here? Okay. Hi, Chris. I was weeding out my males and decided to keep my SSC. What is SSC? I'm losing. I don't know the acronym right offhand. I was wondering, is it normal to see browns in them at times? Got mine from Naomi and Davey at Kansas City Quail Farm, but dang it, didn't expect a dilute. SSC. What is SSC? I should know that. And I probably do. As soon as you tell me, I'm going to be like, oh, I know exactly what you mean. Schofield Silver. Okay, duh. I do know what that is. I wouldn't say it's normal to see browns in there. So no, they should be an isolate. Now, it's not abnormal to get something like that every once in a while from an isolated gene pool. I mean, they are bred out from, I think for the most part, the the brown, the wild type quail is probably the original one, and all the other color variations come from that. So there are, some recessive traits in them, if that makes sense. So, it's not really that abnormal, but it's not really normal either. You may run into it from time to time. I wouldn't expect it on a regular basis at all. You might check with the with Kansas City Quail Farms on that too. If you got a bunch of browns in there and you ordered all Sheffield Silvers, they will probably help you out with that and can give you some more information on it. They're really a little bit better of an expert on genetics than I am, so they can probably answer that a little bit better. And let's see, Brian Moore from Taney County, Missouri. Hey, that's not too far from me. We're almost neighbors. And let's see, JR says, I'm glad you like the quail chicks being put under the broody chicken hen. Yeah, that was a neat video. I can't remember the name of the channel, but they had a pretty cool little video. Seemed like a nice couple. Farming, they had some quail chicks. They were putting them under a broody hen. Looked like it was working out pretty well for them. They just kind of did the introduction. They didn't do I think they're going to do follow us as it goes, and that was just the first video. But it looked like it was working pretty well so far. Let's see, Rhonda Snare says, I had a bad hatch this time. Only 5 hatched and 4 died. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry to hear that, Rhonda. It could be any number of things. It could be, if you verify that your incubator is incubating at the right temperature, that the thermostat's reading correctly, that'd be the first place to check. It could be fertility issues. You may have had some eggs that just weren't fertile. It could be a bacterial issue. There's a whole bunch of different things that could happen with that. So don't stress about it. Everybody's going to have a bad hatch every once in a while. You still did better than 50% though, so it's not terrible. But hang in there. The next one will be better. All right, Boris says, hello, Chris. Hello to you, Boris. Christian says, Chris, plan on hopefully get some valley quail this week. Nice. Well, congratulations on, hopefully your new birds anyway. Hope they go well. Armed American says, hit like. Well, thank you very much, Armed American. I appreciate that. Ethan, oh my goodness, we got a bunch of chats. I'm working on getting to your chats, guys. I do my best to answer every comment that comes in. So, if you see me, answer a question that came in after yours, ask it again. Otherwise, just give me time. It takes me a little while to get through all these. I'm a talker, so I sometimes get sidetracked and spend a little more on one comment than I should, or just babble on like I am right now. Let me get back to it. So I have 2-week-old quail. This is from Ethan. I have 2-week-old quail, and most of them have reddish brown starting to grow on their chest. Are they males? At 2 weeks old, it's a little bit hard to know for sure. It's probably a pretty good indicator that they are males, but you can't tell for sure just yet. I'd wait till they're about 3 weeks old. You'll have a much better idea at that point if they're males or females. Hopefully that helps. Isabella says, Chris, why didn't you live stream last Thursday? Internet was out last Thursday. Got struck by lightning in a storm that came through. I don't know if you probably don't watch the news about what's going on in Southwest Missouri. We've had, just nonstop storms every single day. Storms coming through and tornado warnings and tornadoes hitting all around us. Not that uncommon this time of year. But it seems to be a little bit more, especially the rain, a little bit more than what we usually see. There's some record flooding going on and some of those kinds of things. But one of the storms that came through last week, lightning struck real close. Took out my internet, killed the TV in the bedroom, and we use Dish Network, the little Dish Network box that is right there with the TV. Both of those completely dead. Won't turn on at all anymore. And but interesting, they were all pegged into a power strip with an alarm clock and a weather radio. And those things are fine. It didn't even kill the power to the power strip. It just took the TV and the Dish Network box out and the internet. So I couldn't do a live broadcast last week, didn't have internet. All right, Rhonda says, I made barbecue rabbit today and everyone but my 7-year-old daughter liked it. My oldest, who is 20, loved it. was mad it was all gone. LOL. Well, good. I'm glad it turned out pretty well. I've barbecued some quail before. Barbecue's not my favorite way to cook it. It's okay. It's not bad, but I don't know. To me, there's just I think it needs some, like, I like to cook it in a like a crock pot or a pressure cooker, or braise it in, or excuse me, like a casserole type dish with liquids and those kinds of things. And usually chicken stock, something like that. That's one of my favorite ways to cook it. But barbecue's not bad. It's okay. All right, Kinfolk Farm of Georgia says 40 out of 48 quail hatch. Very nice. Congratulations. Says 1 week old and looking great. Probably going outside next week. Man, do they grow fast. Boy, they sure do. They like double size every day. They double in size for like the first week and a half. It's crazy. All right. Itchy Tuckney Creek Kennels. Boy, that's hard to say. Says, what's up? Great to see you. My new jumbos are doing great. Also bought some Italian Coturnix quail. Beautiful birds. The Italians are pretty. I like them. I eventually just got rid of all my other birds, and I'm just going straight with pharaohs and meat makers are the two I'm going to be growing now, or raising now. I do like the other birds. I like the colors of some of the other birds. I think they're neat. But really, I'm in it for egg and meat production, and those are the winners for egg and meat production, the pharaohs and the meat makers. So we're going to try them both out side by side and see how well they do. Ian says, are you going to put an update video on those eggs that you got? Yeah, I'll put an update video on those when they start to hatch. This weekend, they're going into lockdown, so I may have some videos around that. I don't know exactly. We'll see how they do. Isabella said you changed your username. Yeah, I caught that, Isabella. Figured that was you probably. Where are we at here? Hello to you. Is that Lahib Kanash? I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. But hey, thanks for joining us. Abigail Oberhauser, I always have a hard time with that, says, my kits open their eyes at day 8. I don't know if this is because they are part meat or if they're just developing super fast. I normally breed Hollands, but this litter just happened. So, well, it's not unusual for them to start opening their eyes around day 8, day 9. Usually mine start getting out of the nest box around day 10 or so, and I'm having to put them back in for a couple of days, and then they're on their own. They're out and in wherever they want to. So that's not really that abnormal at all. Joshua De Sousa says, is it regular for quail eggs to be greenish blue? Yeah, it's not abnormal at all. You're going to get all kinds of weird little odd eggs, especially when they first start laying. You'll get little bitty eggs, great big eggs, off-colored eggs, and that greenish blue kind of color is not that abnormal at all. Now, if you get an egg that's all blue, like a not quite as vibrant as like a robin egg, but still all blue, that's a celadon. But if they're celadon eggs, that's a gene that the birds carry that will make them lay those eggs. They'll lay that egg every single time. So if it's just one you're getting every once in a while, it's kind of a greenish blue kind of color. It's just an off egg every once in a while. It's just weird. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the color is a little bit different and it's a little bit off. So don't worry about it. All right, Sonny Reeves says, will you mess up breeding lines if you make jumbo meat birds and jumbo egg layers? No, not at all. You can cross those if you want to. Now, if you want to keep them pure and separate, then yeah, you need to keep them separate. But if you don't care about them being necessarily pure, both of those are jumbo birds, you're probably going to end up with something that's a mix between the two of them. Some of them will be better egg layers. Some of them will be better meat birds. They'll be just kind of a little bit of a mix. But there's not that much difference in them, so it's fine to crossbreed them and not worry about it. You can crossbreed, jumbos with standards. You're just going to end up with getting smaller birds over time, probably. All right, Jim Bowie says, hi, Chris. First and foremost, I hope you weathered the extreme storms in Missouri and all is safe and well. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that's Jim Bowie from New Jersey. You guys are getting some pretty nasty weather up there, too, I think. Hopefully you're doing okay. Yeah, it wasn't that bad here. I mean, it's storms. It's Southwest Missouri storms. So, I mean, if you're from the area, you kind of know what we're talking about. Storms are nasty. 70-mile-an-hour winds, lots of lightning, some hail every once in a while, heavy rain. That's what this time of year is. And, like I said, a lot of tornado warnings, a lot of, some of them touched down. Luckily, they could have been so much worse. They did one touchdown just a little bit north of my town. I live in Joplin. And one touchdown in Carl Junction, which is 15 miles maybe north of Joplin, 10 miles probably at the most. And it did some damage, quite a bit of damage to a neighborhood, but it didn't. Nobody injured, nobody killed in that, so that was really good. Several people lost homes and things, but we're fine here. Like I said, lost a TV from a lightning strike, and cable and the internet was out for a little while, but that's it. All right. Where are we at? J.R. Bailey says, "Yup, recessive genes will rule now and again." Yep, you're right. They will for sure. Mark Khalil, I think I got it right. I'm forgetting your name. Can't remember how to pronounce names from week to week. Sorry if I didn't get it wrong. Hello to you. And he says hello to everyone else too. And Brian Moore says, we had all colors in our Schofield Silver. Interesting. When I got Schofield Silvers last time I ordered eggs and I got Schofield Silvers, they were all Schofield Silvers. I didn't get any other color mixes in with them. But every once in a while I end up with, like I'm breeding my jumbos, and I end up with like a tuxedo or something like that in the mix. Just happens from time to time. All right. Kinfolk Farm of Georgia says, what gun do you keep playing with in the case behind you? That's my shotgun. It's from turkey season. I just haven't put it up. I'll show you guys if you want to see my shotgun. I mean, I'll get it out anyway because that'll remind me to put it up. I have had it sitting here since turkey season, which was, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago. Oh, it's upside down. So this is it. This is my shotgun. It's a pretty nice little gun. It's a Remington Model 870 Magnum. So this was actually given to me by a guy I do a lot of work with, a guy that's Scoutmaster for my son's scout troop, and good friend of mine. He actually just gave it to me for helping him out with some things. Very nice gesture of him. All right, Owen Miller, how are you doing? Glad to see you. Armed American Patriot says, if you haven't already hit like, please do so now. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, let me grab a drink here real quick. All right, Rhonda says, I had 19 eggs, 5 hatched, and out of the 5, 4 of them died. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. They hatched and then died after they hatched. That sounds like maybe some kind of genetic problem. Or again, it could be that your temperature is running just a little bit low, especially if they hatched a little bit late and they just didn't have the strength, didn't have the energy to keep going. That happens sometimes. You might start with, again, checking your incubator and making sure it's incubating at the right temperature. All right, Exotic Keeper says, okay, I had an incubator hiccup, and got 2 of 12 Schofield Silver eggs to hatch. I got 1 male, 1 female, and it looks silver at times, but also kind of brownish if you shine light on it. Not a super dark brown, like almost. Okay, so it sounds like it's just kind of a duller. Yeah, you're going to say dirt maybe, or I added a Scarlet Range Girl in with them and a Rosetta Celadons in a pair, and man, so many different color variations. I can post. Oh, if I can post it on the group later. I'll see if I can post it on the group later. Yeah, dude, that'd be neat to see. Yeah, you start mixing the color variations. You add some different colors in with you're going to get all kinds of crazy, weird colors with them. That's kind of an interesting thing to do from time to time, I think. But yeah, I mean, as far as a Schofield Silver, but it has a little bit of a brownish tint to it, that's not that unusual at all. I thought you meant it was completely brown bird, but no, that's not that unusual at all. It may change a little bit as it gets older, and especially as it starts to molt and regrow feathers in, it may turn more silver, or it may turn a little bit darker colored, who knows. All right, JR says, Chris, have you ever had any experience with raising pheasants? I'm seriously interested in raising, is that mutants? Lady Amherst, and a few others, which are beautiful. No, I don't have any experience with raising pheasant. I get asked that from time to time, but I've never tried it myself. I don't know that much about pheasant, unfortunately. All right, Dave says, hi, Chris. My flock is down to 4, the 3 girls and the 1 boy. I was worried about overcooking, and it ended up not cooked enough for my taste. It was done, but not falling off the bone. Oh, you were worried about overcooking your birds. Okay, so you butchered a bunch of birds. That's why you're down to only 4. That's okay. You got plenty of hens. You can hatch more and raise more and get back up there. And then when you cooked them, you were worried about it overcooking, so you undercooked it a little bit. You know, it's all about taste. quail is very seldom going to be falling off the bone tender like that. It's so lean. It just doesn't tend to be. It tends to be a little bit on the tough side, and if you cook it more, it's going to be a little bit tougher, a little bit chewier. Yeah, I like to undercook mine just a little bit, just done, I mean, almost like medium, maybe, what you would consider that. But everybody's got their own taste. It's a little bit different for everybody. But I'm also one of those that, I mean, I'll eat a steak. I really don't want it cooked over mid-rare, and I really like it fairly rare. I had one of the rarest steaks I've ever had when I was in the Dominican Republic because I was trying to explain to them what mid-rare is, and my Spanish is not very good. I'm still trying to learn it. At that time, I didn't even know as much as I know now. So trying to explain to them what mid-rare was, they ended up just saying, okay, just like this. They said something in Spanish, just like this. And I thought, well, they probably got it. Sure, do that. And that was the rarest steak I've ever had in my life, but it was very, very good. It was really just literally seared on one side, seared on the other side, done. But it was good. I'm one of those that'll eat that. I don't care. So I made my tastes are a little bit different than everybody else's. All right. Was Koppel says, I have had 3 litters with doe and buck that are pure Harlequin. All 3 litters, the babies are all Harlequin colors. This 4th litter, same parents. She had all black babies. Is that normal? Well, I don't know that that's normal, but it's really, I mean, it's not that unusual. Especially, let's see, same parents. They've had all Harlequin babies before, and they had all black babies this time. That's a little bit weird where you would get all of one and, completely different all of another, but it's not unheard of. Like we were talking about earlier, recessive traits, sometimes recessive genes, do take the precedence, and that's probably what caused that. All right, Glenn Compton is here. Hello to you. Armed American says, break the thumbs up is what he's saying. Thank you, Armed American. I appreciate that. Dave says, let's see, one girl looks crippled. I don't know what happened, but sometimes they decide to get all excited, and I'm sure with all her hopping around, she hurt herself. I've had birds do that before too, where they just kind of hobble around on one leg like the other one's, injured or something like that. And usually after, I don't know, a couple of days, a week, something like that, they just get over it and they're fine. But you might check and just make sure there aren't any obvious signs like a break or something like that in it. If not, she's probably going to be just fine. All right. Julian and Michelle, I think it is. Julian and Michelle Aguilar. I think I got that right. What is floating your quail eggs for? Checking it for fertile or just to hydrate? Really just to hydrate the eggs. And if you don't know what we're talking about, it's before you put them in the incubator, you float test them in like room temperature water. You don't want cold water. You don't want hot water. Like room temperature water. Put the eggs in there. If they float completely, they're probably no good. You probably should throw them out. If they sink to the bottom and lay on their side on the bottom, they're fine. They're ready to incubate. If they sink to the bottom, but they kind of stand up on end just a little bit, that means they've got a little bit too much air in them. And if you give them just a little bit, you might see some air bubbles coming off of them. They'll usually absorb a little bit of water and sink back down. Take them out. They're ready to incubate at that time. That's all it is just to hydrate them and to kind of make them all normal. Sometimes that can be a problem with, especially in the wintertime here, when it's incredibly dry out. They can, a certain amount of moisture evaporates from the egg, and that's normal. That's natural. But if you've kept eggs for a series of days, 7, 8 days, something like that, and you've been gathering them up, especially the first eggs that you gathered, and if it's really dry out, they could lose a lot more moisture than what they're supposed to have lost. So rehydrating them a little bit can help with your hatch rates. J.R. Bailey says, slow roasted in the oven, spiced with garlic and shallots and covered in raw honey. I'm not sure what are we talking about, rabbits or quail here? Talking with quail, probably. That doesn't sound bad. I'd skip the honey, I think. I really like honey quite a bit, but I'm not much one for real sweet meat. I like my meat more spicy, more savory, those kinds of things. So that'd be my bet. But hey, that's not, cover it with garlic or spice it with garlic and shallots. That sounds pretty good. It's not a bad idea to just slit the breast down either side and stuff a piece of jalapeno down in there, wrap them with some bacon, throw them in the oven and cook them until they're done, and then you can just baste them with some barbecue sauce. That goes pretty well too. Barbecue, bacon, and jalapeno together is just a great combination. That's my opinion though. All right. Dave says I cooked my three boys all a king. LOL. Yeah, that's happened to me before too. I've been in a kick lately where, listen, my wife and I, we bought a new grill for ourselves for our anniversary. It was kind of our gift to ourselves, and I'll be darned if I cannot figure out how to cook things without overcooking them. We tried some shrimp the other night. I overcooked them. Tried pork chops. I overcooked them. Not terrible. They weren't burnt, but they weren't great. They were just okay. I'll figure it out eventually. Ethan says, what should I do if there are males? I think I have a couple of females. I thought I couldn't bring myself to call them. Oh, I thought, okay. I think I have a couple of females, though. I couldn't bring myself to call them. Let's see, Ethan. Are we talking about baby birds in the brooder? Was that you that asked that question? I'm getting mixed up. I'm sorry. 2-week-old quail. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, isn't it? I think. Oh, look at that. Jim just give me a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Okay, so the 2-week-old quail, if they're male, just let them grow out. As far as culling them, if you can't bring yourself to cull them, if you don't plan on eating them or any of those kinds of things, you can keep them. There's no reason you can't. You can keep a group of males all together, and as long as you keep them all together and they've been together all the whole time, they'll probably get along just fine. There may be some fighting that goes on from time to time. If you need to thin them down, like if you've got a couple of hens and you've got too many roosters for that, just look on Craigslist. You can probably give them away or sell them for $2 a piece or something like that, and somebody will take them, more than likely. All right, JR's got a question for you. Dave says, how old are they? Not sure where that answer went. Oh, there he is. He's answering. Says just a couple of months old. Okay, I'll let you guys carry on that conversation. Dean said Sedgabir. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Says, hi, Chris from the UK. Your videos are so informative. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And all the way from the UK, it's got to be like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning there. Thanks for staying up late and joining us here. I appreciate it. Rhonda says, I'm going to start saving eggs again soon, hoping that the next batch will do better. I did add oyster shells to their diet recently because they were eating eggshells. They were going crazy. Oh, really? They were eating their own eggshells. Interesting. That can happen sometimes if you feed eggshells back to your birds and you don't like crush them up. If they still look like eggshells, then they might start eating their own eggshells. But it also could be a protein deficiency. They may not be eating the eggshells as much as they're trying to get to the egg inside the shell. So those are a couple things to look at. But yeah, adding some oyster shells, not a bad idea if your calcium levels are low. And low is going to be like below 1.5%. You really need like 1.5 to 2%, probably a little closer to 2%. So if you're running at like 1.5% or a little bit lower, you may need to add some calcium. Always add it. If you do, always add it as a side. Don't mix it in with their feed. They'll just self-regulate on that. They'll eat as much as they need. You don't have to worry about it. All right. Okay, what J.R. Bailey says to Dave, what mesh size are you using for your cage flooring? Yeah, I use 1/2-inch cage flooring. He's answered that down there or later. Says 1/2 inch everything. We have rats now and then. I haven't had anything get through my 1/2 inch hardware cloth. Anything smaller than 1/2 inch, the droppings won't fall through, and anything bigger, you're looking at opening up the problem for predators. You're opening up. You're also looking at probably more leg injuries and feet injuries and those things because it's just too big for them to comfortably walk on. Their feet aren't that big, so 1/2 inch works really, really well. All right, the Bluesman says hatched. Hatched. Put my first emu last week. So much fun. They follow you around like a puppy. Hatch your first emu. I remember you talking about putting emu eggs down to incubate. I'm glad to see you got one hatch. I bet that is pretty interesting. All right. Abigail says normally Hollands open their eyes at like 12 and 13 days of age. Yeah, I would say that on average the meat rabbits are probably between about, anywhere from like 8 to 12 days old, somewhere right around there when they start opening their eyes. Usually probably closer to about 8, 9 days old, somewhere right around in there. All right. Lori says, I think almost homesteading has quail, Oregon. What? I think almost homesteading has quail and then Oregon, if that's close enough to Washington. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting them know. Or thanks for letting them know, Chris. Okay. Almost Homesteading has quail, and they're in Oregon. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that took me a minute. All right, Rhonda said, and thank you for the recommendation there. That's a good place to check then, who was looking for quail in Washington. Thank you. Rhonda says, I have a doe that is due around the 7th, and she was going crazy today running around with Timothy hay, so I put the nest box in there now just in case. Yeah, that's a good plan. You know, anytime you see your rabbit running around with straw sticking out both sides of their mouth, it's a pretty obvious thing. That means it's time to put the nest box in. She's looking at building a nest. You know, I checked with mine. Oh, it was last week. I thought, you know, it's getting pretty close. So I just took a handful of straw and threw it in there, and she immediately picked it up, started going around this. I mean, she had it hanging out both sides, gathered it all up, walking around the cage with it. And I put the nest box in. She built a beautiful nest. She didn't have her babies for another 2 days, but, you know, still, she got her nest built. All the babies in the nest. Everybody's doing fine. I might do some video updates on that later this week and show you guys the new baby rabbits, too. All right, Kurt Stewart says, hi, how you doing? I found some good layer crumble for my quail, $12.50 for 50 pounds. That's a fantastic deal. I think I pay about $13 right now, but that's the best I could find. All right, where are we at here? All right, Lahib, I think, hopefully I got your name right, says eggs went to the incubator on 5/17 at 1 p.m. They should when should they exactly go into lockdown? I got the quail ideas from you, and I got my eggs from Kansas City Quail Farms like you recommended. Okay, so 5/17, you know, count on day 15 is about when you want to go into lockdown. So the 17th, let me pull up the calendar here because I cannot do that kind of math in my head for some reason. So you've got 7 days, 14 days. I would put them into a lockdown on, you know, either tomorrow or the 1st. I'd probably go with the 1st because the first Saturday, I think is it, right? 14 days, yeah. Yes, I would go in probably Saturday. I think it's better to wait just a little bit longer because that way you don't have to worry about opening it up to add more water if you need to add water to get the humidity up. If you start it too early, it can dry out before the hatch is completed, and then you're kind of in a difficult place there. So yeah, I would go with day 15, Saturday. Hopefully that helps. All right, looks like Lori sent a message to Sean, probably about almost homesteading and the quail there. Thank you for doing that. Exotic Keeper says, Brian Moore, I've heard a lot of bad stuff coming from the Schofield Silver lines of my shire lately. They from them by chance? No, she said she got them from Kansas City Quail Farms. I haven't heard any bad things about my shire farm. You know, I always recommend Kansas City Quail Farm, but not because I'm talking bad about anybody else or anything. As far as I can tell, I think my shire farm has gotten pretty good reviews on things. Their Schofield Silver lines may be a little bit different, but I believe their reviews have been pretty good so far. All right, excuse me for a moment. Oh, Kurt, with the feed that you've got, $12.50 for 50 pounds, is it Kalmbach feeds? Kalmbach feeds. That's a pretty good deal. $12.50 for 50 pounds of it's nice. The Bluesman says 2 to 3 days before the 17th hatch. Usually lockdown day is 15th. Yep, thank you for answering that, Bluesman. Appreciate it. King's Craft says, thank you for all you share with us. My first hatch is outside now. They're 5 weeks old, 2 males and 6 females. Hoping for eggs in a couple of weeks. I'm in Washington and found eggs on the Facebook Marketplace. Awesome. Congratulations on your hatch. I'm glad to hear things are going well for you. Rob Donaldson says, hello again from Alabama. Love your channel, so educational. Well, thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate that. And Chris Harris says, quail follower. Well, thanks for following the videos. I appreciate that too. Let's see. All right, Leaves got another question. Thank you. Does the time of day, and he's actually asking the Bluesman. Let's see what they say. What he says. Time of day does not matter, is what Bluesman said. I agree. Time of day doesn't, you're going into lockdown. That's what we're talking about. Time of day doesn't really matter. You say, it goes on to say, my incubator is ready day 13 today. So in 2 days, I should go into lockdown. Yeah, 2 days, you should go into lockdown. Don't worry about the time of day. It's not really that important. The Bluesman says, pour some Crown Royal in that Pepsi. I don't have any Crown Royal. It's not really, I'm not a big fan of Crown Royal. I do like a Cuba Libre every once in a while, which is a Cuba Libre, yeah. Which is like a rum and Coke, basically. Every once in a while, I like one of those. But for the most part, I'm not really a big drinker. I do like to have a beer every once in a while. But no, I'm not going to go with a Crown Royal and a Pepsi. Thanks for the suggestion, though. Syed is here from the UK as well. We got somebody else from the UK. You guys are staying up late. Sorry I can't get it done earlier in the day and keeping you guys up late, but thanks for joining and thanks for watching. Let's see. Robert Unlimited says, thanks, I've seen every quail video. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mike Priest says, glad to see you made it through the storms. Yeah, glad to see you made it through the storms. Container Gardens is mostly in. Baby rabbits should be here in a week. Hope you and your wife are good. God bless and good luck with the garden. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, the garden's not doing bad. It's there have been a few things that happened. The green beans didn't do well at all. I'm probably going to just start over with that. Mostly the slugs got them. I mean, with all the rain and all the moisture out there, luckily they got mostly my green beans and not my other stuff. They did eat a couple of the okra down. They killed one of my squash plants, or actually I think it was a zucchini plant, and a couple of the cantaloupe. But I got quite a bit of cantaloupe, so that wasn't a great loss there. And they even took out some of the corn. I mean, they've been going crazy. They're eating everything. And the problem is that it's so much rain. It's raining every single day that, you know, we've got snail bait to take care of them, snail and slug bait to kind of keep them in check. But it gets washed away every day because it rains every single day. You know, so it's kind of a catch-22. But it's not too late to, especially like green beans. Those can be started anytime, so not a big loss. I might plant more just to keep the snails and slugs focused on that and not the other things, but who knows. Chris Harris says, new to incubation, quail hatch at 50%. Should I have used the Listerine water? You know, I think that's a good practice. It takes care of a lot of bacterial issues and it can help out quite a bit. 50% hatch rate's not terrible. Don't beat yourself up over that at all. That's a pretty decent hatch rate. You know, you might look at, again, your incubation temperature. That's usually the biggest thing when you have a low hatch rate, assuming that the eggs were all fertile. Your incubation temperature is usually the biggest thing. So you might get a couple of thermometers, like meat thermometers or something. Make sure they go down to 100 degrees or below, because that's what you need to verify the temperature at. And make sure they're calibrated. Make sure they are accurate. I always recommend getting 2, calibrate them so they're accurate, and put those in your incubator. And that way, if you've got any 3 thermometers, the incubator itself or one of the 2 you put in there reading the same temperature, you can bet that that's the right temperature and the other one's off. So you can kind of verify if your incubator is reading temperature correct or not. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, the Bluesman, how are we doing on time here? About 20 minutes left. Bluesman says, Chris, I use 3% peroxide and have a 100% hatch rate, but not all eggs will always be fertile with quail. Yep, and that's a good suggestion too. You don't have to use Listerine necessarily. 3% peroxide, like he said, 3% peroxide works. You can even mix alcohol, rubbing alcohol in, probably about, I don't know if I'd go as high as half water, half alcohol, maybe more like a quarter water, a quarter alcohol, 3/4 water. You can use that. There's a couple of different things you can use. All right, Syed said, I finally got some land and now have 12 chickens, 3 roosters, 3 Campbell ducks, 3 female pheasants and a male pheasant, 3 fountain doves, 16 female Japanese quail, and 1 male. Wow, sounds like you got quite a zoo going on there, Syed. Congratulations on your land. I hope that things are working out well for you. It sounds like they are. J.R. Bailey says, Lori, it was Blue Creek Dairy Farm up in Colville area of Washington State. I don't remember what that was a answer to, so I'll just have to leave it at that. All right. Anthony says, have you ever tried to stagger hatches in the same incubator, like start some eggs and then put more in 2 to 3 days later? No, I have not done that myself, but I have seen other people do that. And we had somebody, I don't remember who it was, maybe it was the Bluesman was talking about this, but I don't think it was, about putting the eggs that are going into lockdown, if you're staggering them, like you put some eggs in the incubator and then you put some in 2 or 3 days later, when these eggs are going into lockdown, they removed a couple of the rails, the egg turner rails, and put like a basket back there, basically like a little from a Dollar Tree or Dollar Store or something like that, like a dish basket that would fit in there, and they put the lockdown eggs in there. And they hatch out in there, and you can just remove them out of there, and you've got the rest of the eggs ready to go at that point, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's I know plenty of people that have. I've never tried it myself, so who knows? All right. Chris says just ordered a dozen Polish eggs. Should ship eggs rest for 24 to 48 hours to let their chamber rest. Yeah, I think the common wisdom is 24 hours. I usually just let them go like overnight. So it's usually probably somewhere between 14 to 18 hours. But yeah, 24 hours is a good bet. Raymond's here. Hello. Rhonda says, how often do you do the Listerine spray? I just do it when I collect the eggs, when I initially collect them, and then one more time right before they go in the incubator, and that's it. You don't ever spray them once they're in the incubator. Just right before they go in is the only time. All right, JR says, Chris, is there any danger from using tap water for the incubator, or do you recommend distilled artisan water to get rid of the chlorine? Yeah, I use tap water. I've never had a problem with it. It's probably better if you use like a distilled water or something, but good grief, that's going to get expensive pretty quick. So yeah, I just use tap water. It's always worked well for me. I've never had a problem. All right, excuse me for a moment. All right, Exotic Keeper says, well, I meant add a range or scarlet, don't know which it is, and Rosetta blue layers for color variation of knowing the lightness of brown she was, and so the SSC wasn't beat up with breeding her, though. Now that I'm sorry, Exotic Keeper, I got lost here. We're talking about the Schofield Silvers. I remember. Well, I meant that I added a range or / scarlet, don't know which it is, and a Rosetta blue layer for color variation of knowing the lightness of brown she was. And so the SSC wasn't beat up from breeding for. Okay, that makes sense. I got you. You added a couple more birds in to keep the Schofield Silver from getting overbred by the one male in there. Makes sense. All right. Jesse says, thanks for your informative videos. First year with quail, Muscovy, and rabbits. Your videos have helped with the learning curve from chickens and cattle. Well, right. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear things are going well for you, and thank you for watching the videos. Jim says, he gave the $2 super chat and says, if you have YouTube Premium, you can send super chats for free. I didn't know that, Jim. Thank you. It says you have to do it from your phone, though, so I didn't know that. Interesting. I guess it's not really free because you're paying for YouTube Premium already, aren't you? But anyway, thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate that either way. Danielle, I think it is, says, my 2 quail breeding, but what would cause the chicks to not bring in the yolks during lockdown? Lost 2 chicks due to that. So you had 2 chicks hatch that didn't absorb the yolk. That could be a low temperature in your incubator can cause that. That's the biggest issue that you're going to run into with any kind of failed incubation is low temperature or high temperature. Your incubator being off a couple of degrees one way or the other. So I would always go back and check and verify that that's correct. The other thing with that, that could be a genetic thing as well. It sounds like they just weren't developing at the right pace, which again could go back to temperature. But a lot of times temperature is going to just cause them not to hatch at all. But it could be genetics as well. There's a number of different things that could be causing that. It could be some kind of vitamin deficiency or something like that in the feed, but that's unlikely if you're feeding a commercial feed like a game bird starter or a turkey starter. That's going to have everything they probably need. So, all right. JR is asking Jesse how do they like the Scovies. Well, I'll let that answer. Exotic Keeper says, you mentioned it. It is fun to change up the colors. A few months back, I added Celadon Rosettas with my Falbfee fairies for what I dub a Cellophee. Interesting. And I actually got Rosetta Fee. It's about 7 weeks. I imagine the Rosetta Fee would be more common anyway. Says old and so cool. They're about 7 weeks old and so cool. I may actually keep these Celadons with the SCC just to see what happens, what pops out. Interesting. All right, Koppel says, have you ever had rabbit burger? If so, how was it? If not, do you think adding a bit of pork fat when grinding it up would be a good idea? Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I don't think I've ever had rabbit burger, like, you make a burger and cook it on a hamburger, bun. But I've made sausage before, which is very, very similar. You grind it up, add some different spices. And I did it very similar to the way you would do maybe like a chicken sausage. So it had, I don't even remember. I think some sage and some, what else was in there? Parsley probably. Liver to add a little bit of fat to it. But and it was pretty good. It wasn't bad at all. But yeah, you're not going to hurt to add a little bit of. I don't know if I'd go with pork fat. Pork fat's pretty strong. I might go with like chicken or again just adding some things like the liver. Really does add a lot of flavor to it. So those are a couple of things to consider on that. Maybe try pork fat. Who knows? I'm just afraid that it might be kind of it just tastes like pork, which might not be good. I don't know. Kinfolk Farm of Georgia says, never heard of those silver quail. Now I want some of those. I've got some old videos that showed them. I had some for a while. They're pretty neat little birds. And some of them are darker than the others. They're not nearly as silver as some of them. But you can go back and look through my videos. I can't remember which ones. So I'd have a hard time telling you exactly which ones to look for. But there are some of them that show the silvers in there. Raymond says, need some more dog training videos. Love Max. Max is a great dog. He's a very well-behaved dog. He has his moments where he gets a little wound up or he gets to where he doesn't want to listen, but most of the time, he's pretty well-behaved. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some more. I'm not like an expert dog trainer or anything. I just had dogs all my life, so I kind of understand them. And, got kind of lucky with this one. He's, like I said, exceptionally good. Who knows? I might do some more dog training videos or at least, maybe show off some of his tricks, as he learns some new things. How are we doing on time here? 15 minutes left. Rhonda says, okay, no, they aren't eating their own eggs. You're talking about them eating their shells. I was crushing up their shells. They were acting like it was the best meal ever. Yes, I have a separate bowl for the oyster shells. Okay, good. It sounds like you got the plan then. Yeah, you can keep crushing up their eggs if you want to, but there's nothing wrong with adding an oyster shell either. And Lahib gave me $1 on the super chats. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys are very, very kind. All right, Jesse says, J.R. Bailey, they are still in the brooder. They will free range in the horse pasture and hopefully roost in the horse barn at night in 2 weeks. Have a pond, but not needed for Muscovy. Okay, you're talking about Muscovy. I thought you were talking about quail. I'm like, no, quail aren't going to free range. They're going to free run and go wherever they want to and never come back and probably get eaten by something. But no, Muscovies, yeah, they can free range for sure. And yeah, they probably will roost in the barns at night. All right, JR says, Jesse Insling, Insulin, I think I got it. I hope you'll keep us informed as the incubation and brooding goes forward on them. I want them for brooding and meat purposes, though I intended to raise silver apples and Anconas. Interesting. Yeah, if you're in the Facebook group, definitely post some pictures as they start growing and start brooding. That'd be nice to see. All right, Rhonda says, the only food I can find for my quails is medicated. Would that hurt the hatch rate? It shouldn't hurt the hatch rate. I don't like to use medicated feed necessarily, but really when it comes down to it, there's nothing wrong with it. If that's all you can find, then medicated is what you got. I would look for something to see if you can find something for that's not medicated. But no, it shouldn't hurt the hatch rate. All right. All right. Robert says I get 22% at Orscheln's for $13. That's a good deal. Abigail says, I'm building a 6-section cage. Any recommendations on how to do the doors? Also, have you ever set up a watering system? And if you did, is there a video? Yeah, I have a video on how to set up a watering system for the quail. I use quail water cups. If you look back through my channel, you can probably find it. I think it's just how to set up a quail watering system or how to build a quail watering system. I think is the title of that video. Should be pretty easy to find. As far as the doors, I would recommend, there's lots of different ways you can do doors, but I would recommend having them open to down like this towards you, if that makes sense. Let me turn sideways. So here's the cage, here's the door. Have it open this way. What I found is that when you have it open up, or if you have it open to the side like this, the birds will tend to pile up right there at the door. And if you open it like if you're opening it upward like this, they all kind of pile out they fall out on the ground before you can get a chance to catch them. Whereas if you're opening it downward, you can kind of keep them back without having them fall and tumble out. So those would be my suggestions on the doors. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Steven says, I had my first hatch a couple of weeks ago, and they hatched from Friday till the following Friday. That's a pretty long span. I think the problem is my incubator. It has a fan, but the temperatures vary a lot from place to place. That could be it. You might want to try to add another fan or something and see if you can, like a computer fan or something, see if you can work it up to where you can add another one maybe in the back of the incubator. Make sure you take the vent plugs out, the little red plugs at the top if you're using a styrofoam incubator. Take those out so it gets plenty of circulation. That might help with that a little bit too. And also make sure that it's not in the, like a window where sun's coming in and hitting the incubator, because it may be heating it up in one area where it's not in the other. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, here we at. Jim Bowie says, Chris, until you master grilling techniques, use a meat thermometer and take your food off the grill just before it reaches the proper cooking temperature to finish cooking and rest. I know all those things, and I've done pretty well with the charcoal grill for years. This is a propane grill. I've only had it a couple of days, so I haven't messed things up too bad. But yeah, you're absolutely right. A meat thermometer is the way to go. Take the temperature of the meat and verify it. Take it off before it's completely done, because it will finish cooking. And I think that's what I did with the. That's what I tried to do with the pork chops, but I did let them go a little bit longer. I'm a little bit leery about pork. To me, pork's got to be cooked done. Well done. So that was it on them. And with the shrimp, I just cooked them too long. They got away from me. Shrimp only take like 3 or 4 minutes to cook. So it was just too quick. But yeah, I'll keep working on it. Don't worry. Like I said, I'll get it down. Small Wooden Boat says, I've read a lot of people keeping their quail on starter their entire lives. Would you recommend this? Or should a layer crumble be used once they start? My Shire Farm is great, good people. Yeah, I've had a little bit of interaction with Zach from My Shire. He's always been a nice guy, always had good advice. I've never seen anything that I really just completely disagree with, but even if I did, that doesn't make him a bad person. Just because we disagree on things doesn't mean he's right, I'm right. It just means we disagree. We can still be friends and disagree on things. It's okay. I'm not one of those that's gonna just disregard somebody because they have a different view on something than I do. But yeah, as far as I know, he seems like a really good guy. In fact, we may be doing a video together at some point. I don't know. We've talked a little bit, and I've kind of dropped the ball on that and haven't kept up my end of staying in contact with him. As far as the feed goes, yeah, I keep my birds on game bird starter their entire life. Now, if you read scientific studies and things, there's a lot of them that really say, they need to go to a layer. But, I've really found the best results with using game bird starter. I use a 30% game bird starter, and that's all my birds from the time they hatch to the time they get butchered to the time, whenever. All my layers get that. Everybody gets that food, and it works great. I get great egg production out of them. Fertility's up. I don't have any problems with it. JR says, I want to use Purina Game Bird non-medicated feeds for my quail. There's nothing wrong with Purina. That's a fine food to use for yours. Outside in Georgia says 11 out of 17 quails on my first batch. So 11 out of 17, that's not bad. Pretty decent hatch rate. Says, I got them in the brooder now. Thanks. Well, congratulations on that. I'm glad to hear they're doing well. Brian says, Chris, there's a lot of different sources out there that saying ages for breeding their rabbits. What do you recommend and why? Ages for breeding. I think what you're trying to ask me is like ages to start breeding your rabbits. For meat rabbits, any of the meat rabbits, I recommend 6 months, unless you're talking about giants, like the Flemish giants. They need to go a little bit longer, probably more like 8 to 9 months. But yeah, I recommend at least 6 months old before you start breeding any of the meat rabbits. And your females, it's probably better to let them go 7 or 8 months, honestly, but you can start as young as 6 months. That seems to be, you will see other people recommend different things, and other people have done different things. If you want to try to start breeding them a little bit earlier, but generally they're not really going to be much, they're not going to be fertile really, especially the females, until about 6 months old. Let's see, some of the smaller, like the pet rabbits, I'm trying to think of what they are, the small ones, like mini Rexes, some of those kinds of things, they might go in, being able to be bred just a little bit earlier than that. But again, generally 6 months is what I recommend. JR says, Bacardi Batmobile rum called Black. Love that molasses taste. Interesting. Well, thanks for the recommendation. Ethan says, what would be the ideal age to bring quail outside to the coop? It's around 70 during the day and 60 at night. I would say, do that around 3 weeks old is probably a good, make sure you wean them off the heat first. But usually by 3 weeks, 4 at the absolute latest, they can go outside. But 3 weeks, they should be pretty much fully feathered out. And with only getting down to 60 at night, they're probably going to be just fine to put them out. I have had really good luck putting out my birds at 3 weeks old. Now in the summertime, when the night times temps don't drop below like 70, then I put them out like at 2.5 weeks old. But yeah, 3 weeks old is plenty. All right, Robert's suggesting about the slug says put beer in a pie tin that will kill them. That's a great idea, but again, it rains every single day, so it's just washing all that stuff away. It's crazy how much rain we've gotten. Ethan says the heat lamp is practically a light and not a heat source, so it's high up and they don't huddle together, but put that indoors. Okay. That's in continuation of what you were just talking about. What would be the ideal age? Yeah, if that's the case, and you've weaned them off the heat already, it's not really a heat lamp. It's just a. Oh, look, was that $2 from Lahib? I'm sorry, and I missed one too. Is that Chalmer? Hopefully I got your name right. Chalmer. I think I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but you gave me $1 super chat as well. I'm sorry I didn't recognize that earlier. I didn't see it. Thank you guys so much again, and I think. Lahib gave me 2 $1 super chats. I don't know if you meant to give me $2, but you did. Thank you very much for that, too. I appreciate it. All right. I was lost. So, yes, Ethan, if it's just a light source, it's not really producing any heat, then, yeah, they're going to be probably just fine to go out there. Cal Troy says, thanks so much, Chris, for the hatching eggs improvement videos. I got 62 chicks. When before I only got 3. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Congratulations, too. And well done. Going from 3 chicks to 62 chicks, assuming you had the same amount of eggs to start with each time, that's a significant improvement. So you're doing something right there. Well done. Cal says, thanks so much, Chris, for the... Oh, that's the one I already read. Lahib says, I bought 18 Coturnix quails from an auction and put them in old chicken coop alone. Gave them plenty of food and water, but for some reason they kept dying. 8 left. Moved to the cage today. That could be a disease issue. You bought 18 Coturnix quail and put them in an old chicken coop. There are some diseases that chickens can carry that can be fatal to quail, and it may be something left behind in that chicken coop. It may be, if you didn't disinfect it really, really well, that may be what the issue you're running into is. I'm sorry to hear that. Again, who knows why? There could be a number of different things there. But in buying them from an auction, they may have come with a disease of some kind. You never know for sure. But that would be one thing to consider. Armed American has a bunch of letters there. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure. The heap says they are a small size and kind of had about 10 square feet per bird. Plenty of room. But for some reason, I find them dead in the corner every single day. So they're getting moved into stacked cage. That might be the best bet, and especially if they're small. Well, no, it says they're similar size. They're all similar size. I'm sorry, Lahib. I wish I had better answers for you or better advice on what exactly might be causing it. But my guess would be some kind of infection or disease or something like that. All right. Michael says, hi, Chris. Been trying heavy gauge 1/2 by 1 inch floors in jumbo quail cages, because the poo just wasn't doing well with the 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wire floors, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch for regular size quail. Larger wire is working. 1 inch by 1/2 inch. I found that awful big for my birds, but hey, if it's working for you, go ahead and keep doing it. I don't have too many problems with their droppings not following through. They might stick on the surface for a little bit, but as soon as they start to dry out a little bit, they fall right through usually. So it works pretty well. All right, Exotic Keeper says, I was the stagger hatcher using tubs to replace the rails. Thank you, Exotic Keeper. I knew it was, I couldn't remember exactly who it was. I'm so bad at remembering names and getting those associated with everything, but I remember talking about it. It was a great idea. Daniel says, is it true silver quail will have hatching problems? My rooster is a light silver 9 weeks old, and my hen is a red tuxedo 13 weeks old. 2 eggs died. Well, it's not necessarily that they'll have hatching problems, and I may be wrong on this, but I think the silvers may be one of the birds that carry the fatal gene where they can just die for no reason, just suddenly, and that usually happens when they're chicks. Or before they're really fully grown and laying, but not at the egg point. No, it's probably something else going on there. All right, Jim says, do you have any problems selling excess quail? I know you mainly have to have certifications for selling eggs or meat. It seems impossible to make a profit in a small scale setup in some areas. Yeah, I don't know that. There are certain rules about selling meat if you're selling it for like human consumption. You have to have an inspection and a certificate. That's really not that difficult to get, though, if you wanted to go that route, as long as you're keeping it small. If you're going really, really big, that's a different story. But as far as selling live birds, there's no permits required for that unless you sell over, is it $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year? There's a magic number there. And if you're going over that number worth of sales every year, then you have to have some kind of licensing and something. But no, I don't have any problems. I just sell a few here and there to help pay for feed cost. Brian says, we have a dehumidifier in workshop and collect the water from that for the incubator. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I guess that would work. Why not? Ethan says, I am hopefully purchasing some female quail so I don't have to get rid of as many males. Should I separate them for a couple of weeks before I put the new ones in? Well, if you're putting the new ones in, there's a lot of different ways that you could do that. If it were me, I think what I would do is move a couple of the males off to the side. When you get the new females, mix them in. And ideally, if you could, mix them into a neutral cage that's new to both sets of birds. And if you've got a fairly even number, that should kind of mitigate the fighting a little bit. And then once they get acclimated to each other, you might be able to combine the two sets of birds back together again. But it's a little bit tricky to do that. You might just keep them separate in separate breeding groups anyway. Like I said, add those in, get them acclimated with each other, and keep them separate that way, the two groups, until like wintertime when the lights, when they go out of breeding mode. It'll be a lot easier to mix them together at that time. Whenever the daytime starts getting shorter, they stop laying eggs, they stop crowing, then you can mix them together a little bit easier. All right, where are we at here? Oh, goodness gracious, guys, I'm sorry I didn't get everybody's questions answered. If I didn't get your question answered today, I am so sorry. There's a whole bunch of comments down there, but we are right at an hour. I got a family. I got to go spend some time with the family. Thank you guys for coming and spending some time with me tonight. I appreciate it. I think we've got 73 people in here. That is a very nice turnout. I appreciate it, guys. Again, sorry to cut it short, but I got to go spend some time with the family. And again, thank you for joining. I'm starting to babble on here again. I keep looking at the chats and starting to get wrapped back up in it. I can't do it. I got to go tonight. Sorry. Hopefully see you guys around next week. I'll get some videos out this week. We'll have 2 more coming out next week, Monday, Tuesday probably. So thank you guys so much for watching. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you next week.